Where do you have your mark? Where are you up to? Anybody?
I don't think we...
No, we didn't go very far, right? So, how about we start talking about the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Abam? It's like 5 lines from the top. The line begins with Uchma.
Right. Hivra,
Huh?
I have a mark after Hivra. Or this line.
After Chibra, like, come on, Cain, you. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. So we said, Neravai Nishmas Odom. But the neshama is like a candle. So I discussed briefly what is the significance of this comparison to a candle. Because a candle gives off light. So too, the neshama, Nishmas Odom, is like a candle that produces godly light. Neravai. We should really discuss briefly, but I'll try to make it as brief as possible. What is light? I mean, we all experience light. Anybody says, oh, light, it's a light switch. Switch it on, you have light. But we know that when the world was first created, it was dark. And then Hashem said, let there be light, and there was light. And this light, this whole phenomenon, this dark and light, this is a very important principle in the creation. Even to the extent that the Medrash says that light represents Maaseh HaTzadikim, and darkness represents Maaseh HaShoyim. What it says in Medrash? Maaseh HaShoyim, Maaseh HaTzadikim. Why is light Maaseh HaTzadikim, or why is darkness Maaseh HaShoyim? What's the correspondence there? So I would like to present it, and if you don't understand, please ask him, because I'd like really to understand this Indian. We spoke many times, as a matter of fact, we spoke, I said, less time, the whole thing. In the dark, you can identify every object that's, let's say, in this room. Everything. By going around carefully and touching everything, you can identify every object in the room. As you can in the light. What is the difference between how you view things, you know things, from identifying them in the light, in the dark by touch, or identifying them in the light? Again, there are many different ways that you can answer the question. I want to point out directly to the Indian Maaseh HaTzadikim, Maaseh HaShoyim. When you identify things in the dark, each thing is a stand-alone entity. It represents only itself. Like if you touch this chair, it's a chair. It doesn't tell you about where it's standing, what is its function. It's not part of anything else. It has its own, what we call its own yeshus. Each thing speaks for itself. Like we say, the gashmis and the chumrius, its own mitzias. In the light, you don't see things independently. You see each thing as it is part of a bigger picture. And how it is, it blends in with everything. And actually, that it is there not because of itself, but for the overall purpose for which this area is used for. So, to put it in simple terms, in the dark, a chair is a chair, a table is a table, but nothing else. It depends on itself. In the light, a chair is bottled to what? To the setup, to the purpose for which it's there. And that's what it is representing. So in the light, you see right away the bigger picture. It's not just the bigger picture, you see what makes it, what brought the chair over here, what brought the table over here. You understand? How come it's here? So it's not here because it is here because of a bigger purpose. Whereas in the dark, everything, it just speaks for itself. Do we understand this, everybody? Okay. This is the meaning. The world was dark, and the world by nature is dark. Because the world by nature is Yeshus, Gashmius. Everything is an entity unto itself, is a Metzias unto itself. The Rebbe brought light into the world in simple. So I said in simple terms that you could see there is a whole world. There's and there's a whole integrated activity. But ultimately, the real light is who created it? Where does it come from? What was the purpose of its coming into existence? That's the real light. And this is what the Pasuk says, Neir Havaya Nishmas Odom. The Neshama sheds light. Which light? The godly light. Where is it shed? Where does it bring the light? It brings the light into the goof where it shines, so that the goof begins to recognize who created it and for what purpose. This is what the neshama what kind of light the neshama brings. Just like we said, physical light. Physical light is that you right away see the purpose, and you see that everything has been brought here for a purpose. Spiritual light, godly light, is also the similar union, but on a much higher level, on the godly level. Okay. So we've discussed, I said this union from light, we tried to discuss last time, a light that is bright, that is pure, a light that is just a derivative from Gashmius. Now we're going to discuss how this actually translates on the neshama level. Okay? K'moi kein yuvan ha'inyan. In like manner, this union will be understood b'bchinas neir havaya de neshama. In this aspect of the neir havaya, of the godly light of the neshama, k'moi shemislabeshes beguf nefesh habahamis. The neshama is a candle. Why is it called a candle? The neshama itself is light. It's not a candle. But when the neshama is contained in the goof and the nefesh habamis, then it's described as a candle, as a candle, because then you have all kinds of different entities, different pieces to that unit. You have the goof and the nefesh habamis, and you have the light, the fire of the nefesh elokis that illuminates it all. Okay? Okay, so far so good. All right, go ahead.
When it comes into the guf, is it like,
I'm sorry?
when it comes into the guf, it's like the light roof, it's the roof that you actually see all the parts? When the neshama comes down to Neshama, so you see all the parts, and see everything with light?
Well, first I want to comment on your point. The point of light that we described is not just you see all the points, all the parts.
So the point of it, how
What is it there for? What is its function? Where is it coming from, essentially? Who brought it there? You understand? You see right away the human element. Okay, in that respect, that is true. The neshama is mislabish in the guf, and it is able to bring the light, the godly light, to the guf, because the guf is a dark place. It knows only itself. The RASHAB is life. We're going to discuss them. RASHAB has koiches, has seichel and midas, but all its seichel and midas is all geared onto the gashmius, all into the darkness. The neshama brings it light. What's meant light? That the guf and the RASHAB should be able to recognize and experience godliness. Where does the guf come from? What is the guf for? What's the function of the guf? Why was it created? Was the guf created in order to enjoy ice cream or a steak, or was the guf created for some other purpose?
I'm just thinking maybe it was created for some other purpose, which is also achieved by enjoying ice cream and steak. And that's all he meant.
Okay? What does an animal do 24 hours a day? 24/7. Doesn't even rest on Shabbos. Eat. Eat and sleep. Eat and sleep. Did you ever see standing over grass and not bent over and eating? Right? Imagine a human being constantly eating. Doesn't go, right? Doesn't fit. Why not? Because in addition to stomach, in addition to a body, he has also a brain, also a seichel. And that is the main part of the human being. This is what he's here for. And I want to tell you a secret you may not know. There are definitely people, it's not uncommon, that they do other things, but their mind is always on which restaurant am I going to eat tonight? What's my supper for tonight? So this is a human being who's got brains, has got seichel, but unfortunately he doesn't know how to use his seichel for seichel purposes. He uses the seichel to enhance and to satisfy his belly or his palate. So this is why we say that the real light that comes into the guf is with nefesh olekis. Left alone for the nefesh habahamis, it has seichel. And what is its seichel? Which is the best restaurant to eat for steak? And if you want to eat sushi, which is the best sushi? Whatever else there is, Okay, so that's what the nefesh olekis is. It brings the godly light. and it is able to influence, and the guf, the nefesh habahamis, to influence them, that they should become consumed and interested also in godliness. That's quite a feat. You know what a feat means? A feat, an accomplishment. Okay, so let's continue now. So when the nefesh olekis, the neshama, is mislabeshes, beguf and nefesh habahamis, then it serves, it completes this structure of what's called a candle. The hapsilo, where the wick, hu ha-nefesh habahamis. The wick is a nefesh habahamis. The wick also burns. What we said before, that the fire that comes from the wick is not a bright fire, and it's a very struggling fire. Like a wick, it doesn't burn well. And if left alone without oil, then the wick will extinguish, will not burn very well. Shenisrav, so how does that become a wick? Shenisrav, it burns up, berish be'esh hatshuka, in the flame of the fire of the tshuka, of the desire, of the thirst, and the craving, the nefesh ha'elokis, of the nefesh ha'elokis. The nefesh ha'elokis has a tremendous craving for godliness, and the craving is described as a fire, because it is in fact just as a fire by nature, when fire burns, it rising upwards and it consumes everything around it. The craving of the nefesh elokis is also in such an excited manner, like a fire. It's not calm. It actually it's a burning desire. Okay. We may not be able to kind of identify it directly, so I want to give you very simple illustrations of this. And it's not at all far-fetched. It's not at all something that is kind of unique to some great tzaddik. It is something which is within the experience of every individual person. We all know the stories, and each one of us has their own story, where if they are deprived of Yiddishkeit, young kids who grew up in some kind of a without any Yiddishkeit, without any meaningful element in life, and they crave. They call especially for it's a slow. We see this a lot. The Israeli young people, after they serve in the army and they have their freedom now to leave the country, where do they go? They go to all kinds of Schwarziyot, and they go to Asia someplace. Why do they go there? They crave for some ruchnius, a spirituality, and they go in all kinds of different things. They live in all kinds of squalid conditions until they hit on a Chabad house. They hit a Chabad house, and they can't have enough of it. They eat and sleep and live in the Chabad house. And in a short while, they run away, go to yeshiva, and they sit and learn 24 hours a day. Okay, you don't see the fire, right? You see a person, but inside, he is burning away with a desire to get the feel of this thing. This is like the fire of the nefesh elokis, Because this inyan does not give any benefit, any physical, worldly benefit. You don't make money from it. You don't get COVID from it. You don't get anything in a worldly sense. What do you get? You get light. You get a sense of reality, a sense of what life is about. And the desire for this light is so strong that you can describe it as a fire, because indeed it's a fire. I remember even here we had kids who came here and they wouldn't waste a minute. What do we do now? What do we do now? Because every day they would mamish the fire. I'm sure each one of you experiences this also. Everyone experiences this, sooner or later. So this is the fire of the Nefesh Olakis, because, we can interpret it any way, which way you want. The truth is, because there is a godly spark in a person that cannot live and cannot, so to speak, be limited to physical experience. Saying, you have everything good. You have everything good. You have food, you have drink. There are kids growing up in very wealthy families. Very wealthy, they have everything. Everything. And they're totally unhappy. They go into drugs, Rahman al-Islam. They ruin their lives, and all kinds of different things. Why? Because physical satisfaction does not satisfy the neshama. The neshama has a completely different perspective on things. That's what we're going to learn. And this fire of the neshama actually affects the nefesh habahamis, but the nefesh habahamis also cooperates and goes along and says, okay, I'll go along with you. And this is what we're learning. That this is how it's a candle. Nefesh habahamis also becomes part of this fire, but it's just like a wick. It doesn't burn as well as the neshama of the nefesh olakis, but it burns. It also acquiesces. It also joins, so to speak, the fire of the nefesh olakis. Okay, so now, having described this in such brief terms, you will see it what the Rebbe says inside. Okay, I'm going back again. Hapsilohu ha-nefesh habamis. Hapsilo, the wick, is the nefesh habamis. Shenisrab, that gets consumed. Berish pei eish hatshuka, the nefesh olakis. In the flaming fire of the desire of the nefesh olakis. Ukmoi b'kriya shma. As for example in kriya shma, when a person says kriya shma, what is kriya shma? Kriya shma is the moment when a person actually concentrates and focuses on the recognition of Hashem. Hashem Echad. Shehu bechinas eish havaya. This is like the godly fire. As it's explained elsewhere. So again, I'd like to elaborate just briefly. Why is Krishma eish havaya? What you say Shema Yisrael, you close your eyes and you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Who cares? Right? In this world, who cares? Who cares what where the world comes from? I need my things. And yet, there is tremendous effect and interest and concentration, and you become, so to speak, imbued with this Shema Yisrael. Why? Because there is a godly fire in the neshama. Because a human being, a yid, has a neshama that recognize Elokus and can relate only to Elokus. Vehu, and this experience of Kriya Shema, where the Nefesh Abam is become consumed by the fire of the Nefesh Olekis, is what's called Bechinas. This is like the element that's called Eish Oichlo Eish. Fire that consumes fire. Eish Oichlo Eish. What does it mean, fire that consumes fire? Now listen carefully. The Be'eish Zed the Nefesh Olekis. That in this fire of the Nefesh Olekis, Shenisoirer, where he becomes aroused, with this great desire and thirst and craving for Elokus, Nisra becomes consumed and burnt away. Ho'eish Zoro, the Nefesh Habam is Gamkein. The strange Eish Zoro means the fire, the strange fire that does not belong in to neshama. The desires of the Nefesh Habamis get consumed in this fire of the Nefesh Olekis. In other words, the Nefesh Habamis, as we're going to still see, naturally desires all kinds of different things. Desires, like you said, at best he desires a good steak. That's when he is a normal Nefesh Habamis. If he is a little bit sickly, he desires all kinds of crazy things. And he has his desires. But when he is in association with the Nefesh Olekis and he senses the fire of the Nefesh Olekis, that fire of the Nefesh Olekis consumes the fire of the Nefesh Habamis. So that he loses that desire. On the contrary, the fire of Shabbat joins in with the fire of the Nefesh Olekis. It's like the wick. The wick also burns. Oil burns much better than wick. But the wick also burns as a result of the fire that's applied to it. Okay? V'hainu. Okay, so far we are together, we understand this. Yeah. V'hainu. How does this actually happen? That the fire of the Nefesh Olekis and the desire of Nefesh Olekis consumes the desire of Nefesh Habamis. It is Shehanefesh Olekis. It is when the Nefesh Olekis Oy Ved Avoidosoi does its avoida. Oy Ved does its labor, does its avoida. Bislapshusei Beguv Nefesh Habamis. While it is bihislapsus, while it is contained within the goof, within the body and nefesh habamis. And what is the avodah that the nefesh olekis do? The haskil, it is to conceive, conceptualize with his boinen be'elokus, and to reflect on elokus. Sha'yizbononus murgeshes, where this reflection and understanding becomes sensed and understood also b'seichel ha'tivi the nefesh habamis. That the seichel, and the natural seichel of habamis also senses this seichel. Okay. So this we have two lines which we need to be oived avidose. We need to kind of digest this. The Nefesh Olekis on its own is, as we said, is Nehel Chivro. Is light, it's fire of Eleki, and it's totally not affected and not interested in the Nefesh Habamis. But because the Nefesh Olekis is contained, was being put by the Meibush into the goof of Nefesh Habamis, so therefore, in this circumstance, in this condition, in this state, the Nefesh Olekis is not capable of recognizing its own truth. without putting it into terms, in such words, into such concepts, that the Nefesh HaBamis will also understand. What's called the natural Nefesh HaTivi, the Seichel HaTivi is Nefesh HaBamis. The natural Seichel is Nefesh HaBamis. One second. What, do you want to ask my question?
What you just said, just clarify.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to try to take you around this entire process. Hopefully, it's a little, if you follow me, you'll be able to follow through this whole thing. Number one, we have to understand what do we mean by Seichel HaTivi the Nefesh HaBamis. What is natural Seichel of the Nefesh HaBamis? What is defined as nature? The natural Seichel of the Nefesh HaBamis. Nature, the whole principle of nature is that there is a cause and effect. What cause and effect means? Something, let's say, I'm pushing this watch, I'm kicking it, and the watch moves. How did the watch move? Because I kicked it. So my kick, my snap is the cause, and the result of that is the movement of the watch. This is, in a nutshell, the whole concept of Teva. So the Nefesh HaBamis is capable of understanding only within anything, within that type of structure. Like we spoke about before, in the dark you can identify things. That's literally a teva. How do you when you walk in the dark and you find a table? How do you find a table in the dark? Is that something that you use your seichel? You figured out there is something there? No. There's nothing supernatural in this. You walked, and as you walked, something stopped, was in your way. It stopped you walking because there's something there. So you know there is something there. You bumped into it. Right? It's not you discovered something, you figured something out. You bumped into it, so you know it's there. This is essentially what's called the teva. The Nefesh HaBamis, even the Seichel of the Nefesh HaBamis has Seichel. You can figure out various things. Everything is on the basis of this principle of cause and effect. Like you spoke yesterday, the day before, the Heru Uchma, we said, if you see a cup on the table, even if you don't see how it got there, but you know that this cup does not walk on its own. So if it is here, you know that somebody brought it here. It didn't get there on its own. No way. So this is already an application of Seichel, right? Because they didn't see it happen. So he says, oh, but somebody must have brought it in. What kind of Seichel is it? It was called Seichel TV. If it happened, it has to have happened some kind of a natural process. Therefore, the natural process for this cup to be here is somebody must have put it here. Okay? You got it? This is called Seichel Ativ Nefesh Habamis. Now, if we expand on this case of the cup, we take it a step deeper, a step broader. This is already the Nefesh Olekis talking. Nefesh Habamis is interested only who brought this cup over here. Okay. But the Nefesh Olekis has a different perspective. He says, not only did the cup come here because somebody brought it, the whole world has come here not by itself. Nefesh Habamis couldn't care less. As long as he's interested, what am I going to eat for breakfast tomorrow? Where the world comes from is not part of its interest. The Nefesh Elokis says, wait a second, the world was created for a purpose. It was created by a creator, by God, for a purpose. How do I know that? Well, I know, the Nefesh Elokis knows, because the Nefesh Elokis understands things on a completely different level. But then the Nefesh Elokis is misboined. It presents its knowledge at the level that the Nefesh Habamis can also relate to it. What would be that level? It would say, look, nothing makes itself. It wasn't, and now it is. So then something must have affected it. And then it goes a step further, and it says, just like this cup is here on the table, brought here by a human being, by a person. A person didn't bring this cup here so that the cup should be here. He brought it here because of some kind of a human reason. He didn't bring the cup here so that the table would not be empty. The table would have to have a cup. He brought it here for some kind of a human reason. So if God created the world, He created it for some kind of a godly reason. This is how the Nefesh Elokis thinks to itself. It thinks on a godly reason. But it thinks of the godly of its godly perception at the level that it puts it in natural terms. That even the Nefesh Habamis can relate to those concepts. That's called Seichel Tiv Nefesh Habamis. You follow this? So he puts.
So how's Nefesh, that's the way that the Nefesh Elokis sees it, so how does he make it that the Nefesh Habamis?
Oh, I'm saying that he puts it in these terms. He says, look, just as, like I said before, just as you understand that this cup was put here by the cup didn't bring itself here. Right. Next step. Who put it here? A human being. If a human being put it here, then he put it for some kind of a human purpose. Therefore, there has to be a human purpose for the cup to be here. What is the human purpose for it? So that becomes a completely new level of understanding. So similarly, Nefesh Elokis says, just that the world also didn't make itself. Therefore, there was a God who created it. And if God created it, He created it for some kind of a godly purpose. Now we're going to start taking what is a godly purpose. So even though this is, so to speak, the Nefesh Elokis talking, but he's talking to Nefesh Habamis in terms that Nefesh Habamis can follow the rationale.
Does it sound the whole thing about like who created the world.
I'm sorry?
So does he go through this like whole shakataya of who created the world, and so if you create the world, so what's the point of this thing here, or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, basically. But the thing is that the effect of the Nefesh Eloki's action is the Nefesh Elokis does not debate with the Nefesh Abamis.
Just lying fast.
Huh?
Just lying fast.
That's right. It could, but generally speaking, it does its own thing. But it reflects on it in terms that the Nefesh Abamis can also follow.
What are those terms? Like the terms, fine, so the terms about the cup or the terms about like Hashem? Meaning, what is he actually saying to the Nefesh Abamis?
The terms is the terms of Hashem. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It talks in terms of Hashem. Now the Nefesh Abamis never heard of Hashem, but Nefesh Elokis knows only of Hashem. But Nefesh Elokis is reflecting and connecting the whole phenomenon of existence of the world and looking at it from Hashem's from a godly perspective. But the Nefesh Elokis really gets, so to speak, completely involved in this, and he experiences consciously this godly phenomenon, that this is a godly world, and he thinks of it in terms that the Seichel and the Hativit Nefesh Abamis can also relate to it. Then the Nefesh Abamis is also affected, and it joins into the fire. It also becomes imbued and part of that fire, but it's like the wick rather than the oil. But he also sees, oh yeah, this is really makes sense. This is really correct. This is how the Neravai Nishmasot, that the Neshama actually affects the Nefesh Abamis and gets the Nefesh Abamis to join in its excitement. This is the Pshat Eish, Oichlo Eish. The fire of the Nefesh Elokis consumes the fire of the Nefesh Abamis.
Did we say before that the Nefesh Elokis, being clothed in the guf, cannot comprehend its own truth unless it's in a worldly manner?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. It cannot think. Nefesh Elokis, once it's put in the guf, it cannot. It still is interested only in Elokus, but it cannot think of Elokus except through the guf means, to the kelim of the guf. It has to use the brain to think. Okay, the Nefesh Elokis is on the Neshama, but in the guf he has to use the brain, and the brain is a physical entity, and the brain is such a place that the Nefesh Abamis also senses what's going on in the brain, and therefore the Nefesh Abamis is also affected by it. Okay. So this is what the Rebbe says in the last words. Shahi hisbonus murgeshes, the hisbonus of the Nefesh Elokis is the avoid that the Nefesh Elokis does, is in such a manner that its hisbonus is sensed b'seichel hativi the Nefesh Abamis, in the natural seichel of the Nefesh Abamis. The Nefesh Abamis does not relate to the seichel of the Nefesh Elokis the way the Nefesh Elokis perceives things. Nevertheless, the Nefesh Elokis, so to speak, puts its own seichel in a manner that the Nefesh Abamis could relate to it, because it presents it in a natural form. Not to say that the Nefesh Elokis itself knows it through this natural form. Nefesh Elokis knows it directly. Nefesh Elokis does not need proof that God created the world. But when it is boinum, when he thinks about the godly presence, it has to think. It thinks of it in those terms that the seichel tivi, the natural thinking process, is also engaged, and therefore the nefesh habahamis is immediately affected. He senses what the nefesh elokis is thinking about. Okay, we continue a little further. Any questions? Okay? Ukiodua, as is well known, the hanefesh habahamis kolul gamkin. The nefesh habahamis is also contained, is also composed miseichel umidus. Nefesh habahamis also has seichel. This is an important principle to understand. Even though nefesh habahamis will say it's like a behemoth, and a behemoth has no seichel. So the inyan that the nefesh habahamis is called a behemoth, it is only in terms of where it's tending to, what it's interested in, but not in its structure, not in how it operates. Because in its operation, it has seichel. Not like a behemoth that doesn't have seichel. It really has seichel and has midas. Just to illustrate the concept. If a behemoth does a wrong thing, you don't punish the behemoth. Punish the behemoth. He doesn't know what he's doing. If a nefesh habahamis, if a human being does something wrong, you punish him. Why? Because he's responsible for what he did. Because he has seichel and midas. He knows that he shouldn't do this. So the nefesh habahamis in the human being, in a yidden, is like a behemoth, but as we're going to see later on why it's compared to a behemoth. But it's not a behemoth in the sense that he doesn't know what he's doing. He knows very well what he's doing. He has seichel. Now, to go further, I have to define the meaning of these words. So I illustrated it from the fact that he can get punished and all that. But what do we mean? He also has seichel or midas. What is, so to speak, the definition of seichel? Now we said before that the nefesh habahamis has seichel, kol gan can seichel midas, but the behemoth doesn't have any seichel. Now a behemoth sees grass across the street. Sees grass across the street, so he goes to the grass. Does that mean that he has seichel? He goes to the grass. I'm sorry?
Yes, no?
Well, his desire for the grass is rotzen, but he's choosing going here instead of going here. He would think safe. You would think it's safe. I'm asking. Why do we say that behemoth doesn't have any safe? And I'm not arguing. I substantiate this fact that the Behema, I definitely agree. The Behema doesn't have seichel. The reason I'm asking this question is not to challenge the statement, is to, in order for us to get a clear point.
I'm trying to give an answer to that. It's Ratzin, that's why. It was Ratzin.
Well, the Rotzen is only that this is what he wants, but what makes him identify it and actually choosing to go here and instead of choosing to go here, that it would seem to be seichel. The seichel is of following the Rotzen. There's the Rotzen that tells him, find me where I can eat, and the seichel finds him what he can eat. It would, something of that nature, if you will. So I'm saying, but we nevertheless say, no, it's not true. He doesn't have seichel. What we say, this is the exclusive property of the human being is seichel. There's no seichel to any other creature. Even though they, like you say, they have natures. And he knows what he wants. He wants a grass and he doesn't want anything else. And every animal, naturally, there are, there are animals that have their preference of food and they will not eat anything else. Is that seichel or is that seichel? So, the point of this question is to try to identify clearly the union of seichel. And once we identify clearly the union of seichel, we will understand how it is that the nefesh habamis is capable of being aroused and touched by the seichel of nefesh elokis. It's elokis, it's godly. It's completely above the whole thing. And yet, because he has seichel, he can be touched by his bonus of the nefesh elokis. He can be affected by it. Okay, so our time is up, so I'll just, definitively we won't be able to discuss it, just want to say 2 words, and maybe you can kind of pursue it on your own, and we'll finish it off on Monday, Mitzvah Hashem. The principle, like we say, it has seichel or doesn't have seichel, is that having seichel means not only do I identify this is grass, this is edible, this is not edible. But that the whole concept of eating, let's say, even eating, is something that is first understood in seichel. Is not something that I know by nature. The way we illustrate this, and we'll talk about it more, that an animal eats and the human being eats. An animal eats, it is entirely into the food. It eats with its whole face, the whole body into the food, and it eats it. Like a cat eats from the floor and it puts his face into the plate and eats. A human being doesn't eat that way. It's a whole process. He's not eating as a whole entity. The food is in front of him, and he has to pick it up and feed himself. Because that's his seichel perception of how you're supposed to eat. It has nothing to do with the food. It has nothing to do with the physical element itself. Has to do with the reality of it, which is this seichel reality of it. This is the meaning of Nefesh Habamis has seichel. And see the Nefesh Habamis, seichel means something which is which is not physically definable. Like you can't explain why you have to eat with a spoon and fork. It's not a physical thing. It's because this is the way a human being eats. He can very well eat like a cat. But he won't. There's no physical explanation for it. It's a human, it's a seichel that you have. This is seichel. The Nefesh HaBahamis also has seichel, which means totally independent and unrelated to the physicality of it. Because Nefesh HaBahamis has that capability of understanding and relating to things that are just conceptually right, not physically, this is why he is able to sense the seichel of Nefesh HaBahamis and be affected by it.
Is there such a thing as a human having seichel? Some sort of seichel? Is there?
I'm sorry?
Is there such a thing as a regular animal having seichel?
No.
Any type of seichel, I'm saying.
No. Seichel per se
So the actual term of seichel does not apply to animals.
does not apply.
But I'm saying, no seichel whatsoever by animal.
I'm explaining to you. This seichel TV, where it can find its way, this is not what we call seichel. This is teva. Just as when you walk and you hit the table and you find out there is table, is that seichel? It's not seichel. This is an actual experience. The seichel of Abba is at that level.
Wait, so when scientists figure out that we can put this certain thing in it, so something else happens to it. So let's say scientists, so they once they make an experiment, so they put this type of liquid into another liquid, and this happens. So that's considered teva or seichel. I find so they made this. So they figured out so what happens when you make this when you put this thing into this thing. So they make an experiment. So
Okay, so the thing is, the concept of an experiment is a seichel.
yeah, but it's teva.
No, the concept of an experiment. But the process itself is a step. And okay, to be continued, Mitzvah. So are we going to sing today, or are we going to? Yes, you want to sing a little bit?
Thank you.
Huh?
Thank you.